It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're taking a look at the Doombook of Chaos, number 7. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. Today it's the Doombook of Chaos, number 7 from 1983. Hope you enjoy the video. Those of you who have been watching videos on my channel know that I took a look at the Doombook of Chaos number 1 through 6 a while ago, and that was all I had in my collection. But since then I was able to pick up a couple of new copies, and so today we have number 7. This is printed on just regular paper, not heavy stock, light green or sort of lime green in color, and it's paper folded in half and stapled through the middle. This one is put out by John Grandidge, and it's from January, February 1983. They actually put a date in there. Finally, I guess they said somebody had been asking about that. All right, let's take a look at the artwork. So the cover here is done by John Grandidge, and if you look down at the very bottom, you can see his signature. I'll get a little closer, see a little bit better the art. He has this sort of thing that it's a J and a G that share the same line in the middle. Looks like some kind of a wild wizard and some kind of a demon here who's holding up a little book that says Doom, a Doom book on it. And pretty fun artwork, a little bit wild. Here's our table of contents. We've got an editorial from John, and he just says basically, hey, here's our 7th edition. How often do these things come out? And he said, we'll start sort of labeling when there's at least supposed to come out. And this one is slated for January, February 1983. They also mentioned that the last issue was a little bit bigger, but they can't afford to do that many pages all the time. They talk a little bit about some of the changes they've made in their printing process, and a few stores that have agreed to carry their fanzine. Then we have a number of articles. Things from the Crypt, the Horde of Thaumaturgic Wonders, the Malign Diners. We're going to talk about all these things. Review, Amoeboid Thoughts, and each of these, or most of these, are little, essentially APA style. So they've got, persons written up 2 or 3 pages, sometimes with their own artwork, etc., that gets combined and then printed in here. Other Worlds, which is sci-fi. Caius Contact, which is some traps. The Theodore race, which is a new race. The Goblin Lair, which takes up the majority of this fanzine, which is an adventure. And then the Tome of Darkness, which is Brad Bennett's, who normally has done these, his contribution. In terms of contributors, again, John and Brad, and then Irwin are always listed in here as the primary people. The Des always seems to be a little sketchy in terms of his participation. And then the other folks here, Richard Lee, Mike Lewis, Caius Jennison, John Perry, Dave Race, Guy Robinson, and Dave Emmett all have some contribution, and Hudson Shaw does a good bit of artwork, and I'll try to share all that as we go along. So this is the editorial. I mentioned that already. Here are Things from the Crypt. These are new monsters. So the first one's from Guy Robinson, and this is the Golem Bear. It is basically a bear, but then it also has 2 duck heads that stick out up on the neck, so it has 3 heads total up there. And it basically says the bear is extremely aggressive, but the duck heads are extremely, I guess they say they're albatrosses. These bird heads are extremely intelligent and thoughtful, and they restrain the animal nature of the bear. They also have the ability to cast 2nd level illusionist spells, and that they will use that to their advantage to confuse or fool someone and then try to attack and eat you. And then the second monster here is the giant antlion, and they're showing a diagram here of how they will dig this funnel, and they'll back down into the earth, and they can put some type of camouflage or illusion over top of the pit, and then you will fall in, and they will eat you. The Horde of Thaumaturgic Wonders. This is Richard Lee's contribution, and he has some thoughts here about a particular blade, the Gil Girth, which is Elvish for the Star of Death. A 12-inch long blade, slim and totally black, will not even reflect light. And he's got a nice background, he's got a very detailed background story here about this guy, and his family was slaughtered by this evil demon. And so he was a blacksmith and was just about to finish this blade when he comes home and finds his family slaughtered. He goes back and pours all of his sort of fury and sorrow into this blade as he finishes the enchantment and finishes making the blade, and then sets out in search of this creature that had killed his family. He finds them there, and there's a battle, and he basically kills the creature, but as it's dying, he lets it kill him as well, because he doesn't want to live anymore. So this is an extremely powerful blade. It is sentient. They want you to have a strength, wisdom, and charisma combined of 47, so essentially almost a 16 average. Or the blade its despair will overpower you, and it will become evil, and it'll take you basically on a killing frenzy, and you'll kill anyone, including friends, if you don't have a strong enough, like, sort of total, intellect or willpower to resist it. If you do have the 47 or above, then you can get some bonuses, but you'll be able to control it. And I think it's like an extra attack, +4 to damage, and to hit, you attack as if you're 4 levels, +4 damage, you attack as if you're 4 levels higher, and you can basically go through any armor. All armor is treated as armor class 10. So it's a pretty cool weapon. The story, the background of it's pretty cool. I like the evil nature of it. I'm not sure how it plays out with the, combined willpower to resist. But anyway, it's his creative contribution this time around. And they do say it's a little tough. They tried to use it in a campaign, and they found it to be extremely powerful and dangerous, because if you fail that roll, you start killing your party members, and that's always kind of a mess. Dave Race has this short thing called the Malign Diners. It's just an idea for, I guess you'd say, an encounter. And essentially you walk in, you see these goblins. They're a little buffier than normal. And at some point you're going to think, because when you attack them, they seem to get bigger and stronger, so you're going to think they're nilbogs. But in fact, they're actually doppelgangers posing as nilbogs and trying to use some illusion and some deception to convince you not to fight with them, and then they'll try to, basically sneak up and kill your characters. The review is for a comic called Warrior, and he just basically says it's really good. He recommends people should get it. And this little creature at the top next to the word review is apparently in that fanzine. Amoeboid Thoughts. This is John Grandidge's article. He starts off with some comments about the prior one, other people's articles. Tells you a little. He's got a little personal update here. He started at the University of Oxford. Talks about being up there and playing with folks. Says that idea Malign Diners came from something that they were in, and apparently their party did not fare very well in that attack. Talked a little bit about Games Day and the presence of fanzines, and at Games Day, and says they have not been. The Games Workshop uninvited them from their dragon meat stand. He said that he thought their ventures were fun, but apparently Games Workshop did not, because they uninvited us to continue to participate because we weren't visual enough. And now we haven't been invited to Northern Games Day, which is right where we all live. So, and then he mentions that the Warrior comic is something that he picked up when he was at Oxford. It's just something he's learned there. All right, so then his other contribution is this class, the Mind Warrior class. This is essentially a psionicist. I think that's the right way to say it, maybe not. Somebody who uses psionics. And you basically, if you choose to be a Mind Warrior class, then you have psionics guaranteed. And he says you're sort of a fighter. He gives you cleric hit points. He has you have magic user saves. The hit points to level up is not horribly hard. At low levels, if you lost less than half or more than half your hit points, or you're encumbered, there's a chance you'll lose concentration. You won't be able to use your mental powers. But as you get higher in level, that becomes less and less of a concern. And once you get to 10th level, it doesn't matter if you've lost hit points. You don't have a concentration issue, only based on encumbrance. So you would clearly try not to be encumbered. And then he's got a table for the charts and the disciplines you get from psionics. I don't know, I always thought psionics were cool, but of course when we were kids, miraculously, everyone had psionic abilities if the DM allowed it, which is obviously impossible, because it was fun to have all those extra powers, right? Most people I know who are adults do not, even if they play AD&D, do not allow that in their campaign, which I totally understand. All right. Other Worlds is Mike Lewis, and you may remember Mike. I think he's involved in the, with the Beholder fanzine. He starts off with some comments on some of the prior articles, and then he talks a little bit about his sci-fi campaign, and says he's got some ideas here for a rule set he's been using for Golden Heroes, which is a superhero game, and talks a little bit about some of his characters who are kind of, as he said, don't take it too seriously, and talks to you a little bit about this most recent campaign. There's some cool art here at the end. You've got this little aardvark looking guy. I think that's what he is. Maybe he's a warthog. And he says, who needs superheroes? And then there's some art stuck in here from Hudson Shaw, who says, and that's the last time I help Hercules with a job. And I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a multi-headed Hydra who only has one head left, and he has stumps for all his other heads that have been chopped off. This is one of my favorite articles from this issue. This is Caius Chaos, and he's got these traps. So the first one here is his dagger trap, and I think the drawing is supposed to be the handle, and then at the side is the blade. And basically, when you hit with the blade, it slides back in, and this little poison needle will pop out. It says it will to dispose of the assailant. I mean, it looks like it's going to come out in your palm, and so when you use it, you're going to get poisoned yourself, which seems, I don't know why you would end up with that dagger, but I guess it's an accident. This is a drawing for a pit trap, and so you would fall in this pit, and it's only 4 feet deep, so the average human-sized person is sticking up a little bit out of it, right? But then when you land, there's a lever, and the floor slides down a little bit, and that releases these spikes that then shoot out and poke you in the guts or the legs, and you take a whole bunch of damage. And then there is the man-eating staircase, and as you walk up these stairs and you step on it, it'll be like the third step here, it accepts weight and it hinges down. When it goes down, then there's a pointed knife, sharpened edge that goes up and cuts the rope and drops this massive steel jaw that comes down, and it's cut, right? So it fits on the staircase, and everything on the staircase is going to get crushed. So this stuff reminds me a little bit of the Grimm's Tooth traps, which I just love. Okay, here's another really fun article. This is the Theodore race. This is for Dungeons and Dragons, and he says here, I'll give you the artwork a little better. This is John Grandidge's artwork. John Perry does the writing. So this little creature, which has long arms and legs and a little tiny like bird body with some hair, right, come from the snowbound north. This kindly but extremely reclusive member of a friendly but extremely reclusive race, the Theodores. 4.5 feet tall with a large beaky nose, spindly legs and arms, and long wispy hair. And then he goes through and basically says you can be these guys. He lets you, he gives you, like from AD&D, like which class they can be: clerics, fighters, yes; rangers, yes. Will not let them be thieves because he says they are too frightened to be thieves. And if they're clerics, they're always partial to the Norse pantheon. In terms of stats, -2 to strength, -3 to charisma, and then +1 to wisdom, +2 to dexterity. He says the wisdom bonus because they spend a lot of time standing around staring at the snow. And then for charisma negative, he says they may be cute, but they're not great leaders of men, given their lack of sort of presence. Gives them some languages: troll, polar bear, frost giant, warg, winter wolf, and Theodore. Which he says their language sounds like Lubba Ubba, Luggle Ubba Luga. Infravision, movement at 1.5 times normal human, can climb as a thief if they're wearing leather or no armor. Better saves versus cold-based attacks, natural armor class of 8 due to tough skin, and the -2 bonus against giant class like a dwarf. So there's the Theodore. He says it's quite popular. People in his campaign are really enjoyed playing these silly little guys. All right, here's the main part of the fanzine, which is David Marv Emmett's, or Marv's Machinations, and this is called the Goblin Lair. There's a little town. This is for AD&D characters, 2 to 5 characters, low level. There's a little village here. He gives you a couple of key people in the village. And outside of town, there are these cliffs. And they say, they used to be inhabited, I think, by bandits, but now these goblins, they're gone, but now some goblins and others have moved in. And so you've got 4 levels here. And it's really well done. It's one of those things, I think it's well thought out. The encounters make sense. They're logical. It's not super hard. It's got a nice mixture of, living creatures, some of which you might have to fight, some of which you might be able to avoid, some traps and some things to figure out. So all in all, very good, one night adventure, one evening's adventure for your group. So I give it a big thumbs up. And then we get the Tome of Darkness, which is Brad Bennett's article, and he says, I gave up the editing duties this time and let John run with that. He gives some thoughts on comments from the prior issues as well as this issue. As he says, being on the editorial staff, I got to read this issue as well. Apologizes to people who sent stuff in and haven't had it published. He said, look, we're doing our best to get stuff out there, but sometimes there's limited space, and I don't think he quite says this, but we're using the best stuff, and then we'll see if we'll get around to you later. And he talks a little bit about his sci-fi campaign, which is focused on infinite worlds. See that with several of these guys, they play a lot of D&D, and then they sort of migrate sometimes to wanting to try out some other types of campaigns. And here's the last page, which is mostly on here just so I can share Hudson Shaw's artwork. This little creature, I'm going to say he's like a duck, and this one's a little bit maybe more like some other type of bird, maybe. I don't know. He does these animalistic drawings, which I think are awesome. And then Hudson also has the rear cover, which is this minotaur tied up on top of a chest. Thanks for the treasure. It's not really clear what exactly. Oh, I guess he's got a knot on his head. So he'd been knocked out and tied up, but they stole the treasure and ran away. I guess that's what's supposed to have happened. So Doombook of Chaos, you guys remember, I always love this one. These guys are a lot of fun. They have a lot of fun energy, I think, in their fanzine. And I was glad to pick up a couple others. I think I probably mistakenly thought maybe there were only 6 of these because that's all I'd ever been able to find. But like I said, I've got 7, I've got number 9, and I did read somewhere that I think maybe there were a total of 10 of these put out, so maybe I'll find 8 and 10 at some point. But next week we'll take a look at Doombook of Chaos number 9, and then we'll move on to another new fanzine. Hope you guys are having a great Friday. I hope you're subscribed, and if you have some friends who might enjoy our channel, please send them our way. Have a great weekend. Keep rolling 20s.